Hi everyone, welcome back to another gameplay of Infinitode the 2. So welcome to another episode of the Tower Guide series. In this new update 1.8, I'm taking a look at every single tower, just looking at the main stats, the abilities, and then just giving you some tips about how to best use the towers, the main strengths and weaknesses for the early game, for the middle game, for the late game. So yeah. Today I'm gonna take a look at the 5th tower in the game, the Antiair tower. And then as always, after the level showdown, I'm gonna just take a brief look at research, both normal and endless. So first of all, the cost of this tower. You can see it's 31 coins. And this cost is actually the cheapest of all the towers. So this tower is the cheapest one. And of course, I have all the towers because of research. The base cost is reduced, but you can see that this tower is even cheaper than the basic tower. Now the game description here says very effective against air enemies. So you can see that the stats of this tower has a lot of range, a lot of attack speed, 5 out of 5. Then it has a pretty decent damage, 4 out of 5. Crowd damage only 1 out of 5 because this tower can only attack one enemy each time, so there is no way to do like damage in an area. And then agility 3 out of 5, a combination between projectile speed and rotation speed. And then down here we can see the effectiveness, and this is the very first tower that we have in the game that can, well, first of all, target and attack flying enemies, but it's gonna only be able to attack those enemies. You can see that all the other ground enemies are 0, exactly as the basic tower or like sniper or cannon can only damage ground enemies, and then flying enemies are 0, right? This tower is exactly the opposite. So it can damage flying enemies, but only those enemies. Now this 100 right here is actually a mistake, because this tower cannot attack bosses, because bosses are classified as ground enemies. So yeah, that's just a mistake. And then we can see that this tower is gonna actually do 50% more damage to helis, and then it's gonna do the normal amount of damage to jet enemies. Now if we try to place it, we can see here the overall range being quite large. Now if we just compare it to a basic tower, you can see that it's more than double, 4.93. Of course, all the range, all the stats here are boosted because of research. And then we find in this tower the other usual stat that we find in any other one. So damage, attack speed, and then rotation and projectile speed. And then we find the basic, the special stats of this tower. In this case is a chance of igniting enemies, so applying a burning, a damage over time effect. And this is calculated as a percentage, so a chance. And then the other stat is how long this burning is gonna last. In this case is seconds. So yeah, those are the special stats. And as always, remember, these special stats are gonna only increase when the tower levels up passively. And then here are the enemies once again, and then we find the abilities. This tower has pretty easy abilities because of the fact that on level 4 and level 7 you're gonna be able to choose between 2 out of these 3. The first one is just more damage, pretty easy. Second one, more attack speed, again pretty easy. And then third one, more rotation and projectile speed. Now in my opinion, this tower has some pretty good rotation speed and projectile speed already, so I would never recommend to get this ability. Always go for more damage and more attack speed. So always go with the first 2, these ones right here. Then level 10 we unlock another ability, aim dropped. In this case, when flying enemies, remember this tower can only attack flying enemies. When flying enemies are destroyed and beneath them there are some ground enemies of any kind, these enemies are gonna take 48% of damage of the exploded enemy. So this means that if this tower destroys, let's suppose, a heli, right? It attacks it and it destroys it. This heli is going to explode and it's going to do 48% of damage compared to their maximum HP to ground enemies. So this ability is going to add a little bit more of utility so that you can also damage ground enemies. So yeah, that's how it works. And this explosion damage only affects ground enemies. So other flying enemies are immune pretty much to this explosion damage and will not take any damage. And then finally at level 20, you can choose between going for the ultimate or going for 10% more power. As always, power increases every single stat other than range and the special abilities, special stats. The ultimate of this tower is going to upgrade the level 10. So it's a change in how the level 10 works. In this case, the explosion is not going to happen anymore. So there is no more the explosion, but there is now a mine. And this mine is going to be dropped. So when the enemy explodes, right, when the enemy is destroyed, it's going to leave this mine behind. And this mine is going to do 48% of damage of the maximum HP, plus, you can see here, 26% of damage. Of course, all these numbers can be boosted with research. And yeah, that's how it works. So in this case, sometimes it's pretty hard to proc aim drop on enemies, because you have first, the wave of flying enemies, and then you have the wave of like regular enemies. So sometimes it's hard to proc this extra explosion damage on grounded enemies. But this one with the ultimate makes it possible, because you have these mines that are gonna stay in place. So even in waves afterwards, they can still be there, and they can, when the enemies are gonna step on them, they're gonna explode and they're gonna do this extra damage. So it's a pretty decent ultimate. Overall, this tower, I would say that it's one of the few towers, the first tower they unlock in the game, that can attack flying enemies. So at the beginning, you might end up using it a lot, but then it falls off pretty quickly, because you then unlock other towers later on that can still attack flying enemies, that are going to be much more effective, because they can also target always ground enemies. And therefore, that's why, in my opinion, this tower, even if it's not so bad, because I would say burning, the overall stats, the abilities are pretty legit. But yeah, it just falls off in the late game because of the fact that, well, it cannot attack ground enemies. So you're forced, and you can only have this tower to do something when you're attacking flying enemies. So that's why, in my opinion, this is not definitely a tower that I would max, and I would recommend you to just get those extra levels just to be able to survive the levels until you can unlock, for example, the Tesla tower, or you can unlock the multi-shot tower, and that can also attack flying enemies that are much better, because they can also target ground enemies. So overall, this tower, in my opinion, is not a very good choice, because you can only attack flying enemies. So that's the main weakness. But other than that, especially the ultimate is pretty legit. And as always, here I'm gonna show you a gameplay on level 2.3. So let's go right here, because this level has flying enemies. And yeah, I'm gonna now use a miner to make this tower a lot faster, because otherwise it's gonna take too much time to level up. So let's just do it like this. All right, so now I'm giving experience to this tower based on how many resources I get from the miner. So that's the best, because in this way I can just upgrade it a lot faster. You can see here passively, so I can reach this level 20 pretty soon. And of course, I will need to place a cannon, because, well, the fact that you can't damage grounded enemies means that all the normal wave rounds, you're gonna just be useless. It's gonna just stand there without doing anything. So you can already see by this very quick demonstration that this tower, it's not such a good option. But anyway, here I just wanted to show you in the slow motion how the tower works. You can see the attack speed is pretty high, You can see 1, 2, 3, a lot of projectiles fired, you know, right away. And then you can see here the damage on the enemies. In this case, the tower is a level 10, so it's causing this explosion. But remember, the explosion only damages ground enemies. So I will have to manually spawn another wave, and these enemies might be close enough so that they are affected by the explosion. So that's how it works, pretty much. So I'm gonna see if I can spawn here, right, the next wave very quickly. Right, if I can show you the explosion. That's the burning, by the way. See here this icon. So that's the damage over time, and you can see that the tower changes targeting when it burns the enemy. So when it applies this burning, it's not gonna attack it anymore. Let's see here the explosion. No, yeah, here we go. So it was pretty far away, but it got actually damaged. You could see there the extra HP damage, and that was the aim drop damage. So yeah, that was good. I was able to show it to you. But you can see it's pretty difficult to proc because you never have a wave where you have both flying enemies and ground enemies coming out at the same time. So that's why it's difficult to proc this one, and that's why the ultimate is that much more needed. Because in this way you're gonna have these mines that are always gonna be there, and therefore you can make sure that you can damage the ground enemies regardless. So let's see if I can actually bring this one level 3. Because the next flying enemies, wave 35 here, I see. Level 16, yeah, I will not be able to get it in time, I think. So I will need to wait until wave 55. Oh well. So let's just wait then. Right, this is just the usual. You can see also the burning. Sometimes it's pretty low chance here, but this tower attacks so quickly that actually this chance increases by a lot. So unless you destroy the enemy, it's almost guaranteed that you're gonna eventually proc it. Alright, so I need to survive just until wave 55, right? Yeah. So yeah, here we go, level 20, so I can get either 10% more power or the ultimate. I'm gonna get the ultimate, so you can see how the upgraded aim drop works, and yeah, it's pretty good actually, because also the damage, it's 84% damage, so it's actually no, it's 48% of maximum HP plus 26% damage. So it's not this 26% damage is not also maximum HP, it's just flat, so it's different. Right, let's also bring in level 2. And yeah, that should be good. So this is the last wave, so let's go slow. Alright, and let's go with slow motion so you guys can see. Yeah, actually this one is not needed anymore. I need this one. So now the enemy is attacked, right? You can see here. It's gonna most likely is gonna burn it, so it's gonna start attacking another enemy. Oh, actually no. And now when the enemy is destroyed, see this mine? This is the mine from the ultimate, right? So the enemies are not anymore exploding, so you're not anymore creating the damage with explosion. You now have the mines that do the work. And you can see here the burning. So let's go a little faster here so that you guys can see what's going to happen in the next wave when the regular enemies are going to come out. You can see the range already, level 2 already can cover all the maps, so that's just the insane range. And like, look here, alright? So these are all the mines here from the previous wave, and now as soon as the ground enemies are gonna step on them, boom, that's explosion, that's the average damage, and each mine is gonna independently do damage in this way. So you can see that I'm destroying this next wave just with the mines. So the ultimate just adds that little bit of more usefulness to this tower to damage a little bit of the ground enemies, and therefore, you know, it's just that little bit better. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's the showdown for this tower. Because of the huge range, this tower can be placed even pretty far away from the beginning, because you can still reach the path. So I wouldn't recommend to place it too close towards the beginning. You might want to place other towers there. So yeah, placing it halfway through, maybe closer to the end of the path. For example, a good spot might be like this one, maybe this two right here could be a pretty good spot. But then, as I said before, I don't really like a lot this tower because of the fact that it only attacks flying enemies. And so, despite the fact that, with the ultimate, you can somehow give it a little more usefulness to damage ground enemies, but yeah, compared to other towers, it's just bad. So yeah, in my opinion, it's not such a good tower to really max on research. So try to focus on other towers. And speaking of research, let's take a look at the normal one. So as always, you can max every single stat. So the base cost is this one right here. The upgrade cost, like everything, damage, range, projectile speed, every stat can be boosted, and of course the special stats and the abilities. So everything can be increased with research. And now if we take a look at endless research, you can see that there isn't anything extra. Remember that, for example, for the freezing tower, or for the sniper, for the cannon, there were some more endless research, so some more things that you could unlock on the abilities especially. But on this tower there aren't any, so there isn't any difference between normal or endless research, other than of course on the endless one you can just get to higher levels, so you can boost the tower stats further. But yeah, other than that, there isn't anything extra that you can get. So yeah, that was the video. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and see ya. Bye bye.